The #1 supplement to fight fatty liver disease was just revealed: aspirin. It's one of the oldest drugs in the world, and the more we learn about it, the longer that benefit list grows. But is it safe, or does it cause a GI bleed? Let's review the 3 major benefits of aspirin, starting with fatty liver disease. Here, researchers looked at 80 patients with MASL, MASLD, or fatty liver disease caused by a broken metabolism. These researchers conducted a randomized, double-blinded, placebo-controlled trial where the participants either received 81 milligrams of aspirin or placebo. They monitored them closely for 6 months, and they used the good stuff: the MRS, the magnetic resonance spectroscopy, and an MRI proton density fat fraction, which means they looked specifically with the best tools to see, is the fat in their liver raising or decreasing? They found that the aspirin group had a significant reduction in liver fat by about 10% of the absolute drop. This was compared to a slight increase in those taking placebo. Practically, that's 43% of those people on the aspirin reduced their liver fat by at least 30%. And this was compared that only 13% of the placebo group dropped it by that much. Aspirin didn't just lower that liver fat, it fixed the problem upstream. It improved those inflammatory markers like AST and ALT, but it also reduced the fibrosis scores on an MRI. This is huge. This is exactly what the danger is when fatty liver gets to the point of no return. That fibrosis takes over. And in these patients, it went backwards because of aspirin. And all that happened within 6 months. Importantly, none of them had a GI bleed. Just 1 person reported mild heartburn. But what about beyond fatty liver? Can aspirin reduce the risk of something even scarier, like cancer? Another major study examined aspirin use in over 146,000 older adults that took it for over a decade. They discovered that taking aspirin at least 3 times a week significantly cut the risk of dying. Not just from all-cause mortality, but specifically from cancer. Those regular aspirin users had a 15% lower risk of dying from any cancer, but a 25% lower risk of GI cancers and a remarkable 29% reduced risk of colorectal cancer. We can't talk about aspirin without talking about cardiovascular disease. Is aspirin still a good idea for preventing problems like heart attack and stroke? The most recent guidelines say no, but the truth is more complicated. According to the guidelines, the question of whether to use aspirin is based on an individual basis if you're between the ages of 40 and 59. And if you're older, the answer is always no. But these guidelines are only looking at primary prevention, preventing a heart attack before you get it. And they ignore secondary prevention, which is preventing a cardiovascular incidence once we know there's problems brewing. That means if you've already had a heart attack or a little bitty stroke, or if you have a plaque hiding somewhere in your body, then these guidelines ignored you. So the data for using an aspirin if you already have heart disease is there. The science is real, but it's deeper than we can get into in this video. So what are the risks? A meta-analysis of 11 randomized trials found that the risk for internal bleeding from aspirin was 8 in 1,000 compared to 5 in 1,000 for those who took placebo, meaning the absolute risk for the aspirin causing an internal bleed is tiny, only about 0.3%. On top of that, if you did get a GI bleed, your risk of dying from that bleed was 50% lower if you were on the aspirin. Fatty liver is a metabolic disease, and way more people have the metabolic disease than heart disease. In fact, you need metabolic disease to get heart disease. And that recent aspirin study showed great benefit to your liver. But these 3 lifestyle interventions reverse it. Click here to learn how to do that.